Hey guys, Paul Ronto here from Run Repeat, and today we're going to do something new, a head-to-head comparison of two very similar shoes, the Brooks Glycerin 19 and the Saucony Triumph 18. We've got two very similar shoes. These are both neutral trainers, super plush, really padded, really soft landing underfoot. They're ultimately built around comfort, and they're really identical in a lot of the stats. So I wanted to pit these against each other head to head. So if you're looking at both of these shoes, you kind of get a good idea of which one might be right for you. Okay, in this video, I'm gonna go over the differences, not necessarily the pros and the cons. We did individual reviews on both these shoes earlier, and so you can go check those out if you wanna see the pros and cons. Today, we're gonna discuss what sets these two apart. Now first, let's start with the upper. The upper on the Saucony is a little more plush, a little more padded here in the ankle, a little more padding in the tongue than the Brooks, but they're both very similar. Both have a engineered mesh upper. It's super stretchy, it hugs your foot, they feel great. One main difference is, as you can see on the Saucony, they're horizontal to your foot, whereas on the Brooks, they are vertical. Now, there isn't a huge difference in the design of this, but the way they work does act a little differently. They're both really a little bit warm because of all the padding and all the plushness in the upper, but the holes on the Brooks actually work a little bit better. They get wider as your foot splays with every time it lands. The problem with the Saucony is they're designed to get wider as the shoe flexes, but most of the time your shoe is flexing this way when you're running. So they actually are getting pushed closer together rather than being pulled further apart. So although they're very similar, the Brooks does vent just a little bit better, breathes a little bit better, and runs a little cooler than the Saucony. Okay, tongues. Both of these obviously heavily padded tongues, both have gussets, both have stretchy gussets, which I really like. One key difference is the Saucony's gussets are a little bit further back and hold this tongue a little bit lower. So when you slide your foot into this, you really feel that mid-foot lockdown right away. The difference in the Brooks is the gussets are just a little bit further forward, and as you can see, that tongue just sits naturally higher. So it doesn't really hold your foot down in place as well as the Saucony. Now, I like that this has gussets on the Brooks. Obviously, it holds the tongue in place, but it doesn't give you that same sweet, really tight mid-foot lockdown feel that the Saucony does have. Next, laces. Laces are overlooked many times, but I want to bring it up in this because the laces on the Saucony are very plush. They feel great in your hands. It kind of goes in theme with the plush luxuriousness of the upper, but they're really, really stretchy, which makes it hard to get a really good tight lockdown. Now, the Brooks, they're also soft in hand. They're a little more lightweight feeling, a little more minimalist, and they don't stretch as much. And so I do feel like you can tighten these down a little bit easier, which does help since the gussets on the tongue don't lock down as well on the Brooks as the gussets on the Saucony did. Midsole. Now these are both highly cushioned shoes built for comfort, but the Power Run Plus on the Saucony does feel a little bit softer. It's also got a little bit more response, so it has a little nicer toe off than the DNA Loft on the Brooks Glycerin. Now, it's still soft, it still feels comfortable, but there's just a slight bit more density, it feels like, underfoot to this foam, and it doesn't have that sweet, really plush, smooth ride as a Saucony. Now, this is a very minimal difference, but I do want to point out that it's just a touch softer on the Saucony. Outsole, both full rubber outsoles. However, the Saucony does have a bit more texture to it. There's some lugs on here that are reminiscent of a trail shoe, just very small and short. And the ones on the heel here actually have great grip. I went and ran these in the snow up in the mountains last week, and I really dig how the Saucony's grip. The Brooks, a little bit thicker rubber, maybe 1 millimeter. I'm not sure if that makes a huge difference, but the grip not as good on the Brooks. However, both of them nice full rubber outsoles. Fit. Overall, to me, the Brooks had slightly better fit. Even though the gussets weren't as tight over the midfoot, I didn't have any heel slipping issues with the Brooks Glycerin. The Saucony, I did have some heel slipping issues. I couldn't get it as tight as I wanted because of the laces, and there's just a little bit more room in the heel box, so my heel tended to slip a little bit, even though those gussets feel much better over the midfoot. Comfort, obviously we got to talk about comfort. That's what these shoes are designed for. I feel like the Saucony is a little bit more comfortable of a shoe. It's got a plusher upper, a little bit more padding in the ankle, more padding in the tongue. It's got that softer, sweeter ride in the midsole. this is a slightly more comfortable shoe, in my opinion, than the Brooks. However, that extra comfort comes with a penalty in the Saucony. This shoe is a little bit heavier than the Brooks. Saucony comes in at 10.9 ounces in my men's size 9. The Brooks comes in at 10.3 ounces. So just slightly over a half ounce, 0.6 ounces heavier, which is a considerable amount that you're paying for some of that extra padding and extra softness in the Saucony. Honestly though, neither of these are lightweight shoes. They're both in that 10 plus range. It really makes me wish that these shoes came in around 9 ounces, which both of these companies make very similar shoes that are a little bit lighter. Brooks makes the Ghost 13 and Saucony makes the Ride 13. Very similar neutral training shoes, not as plush, but you do save a little bit of weight if weight's a big concern for you. Price on both these shoes, $150. The Ride 13 and the Ghost 13, both a little bit lighter, a little bit less cushioning, but also coming in at $130, so a little bit better on price as well. Okay, durability on these shoes. Both are gonna be super durable shoes. I think they're gonna have no problem going 400 or 500 miles. I will give the Brooks the slight win on this one. Little tiny bit more rubber on the outsole, and that midsole being just a little bit more dense, I think this one will last a touch longer. Drop and stack on these shoes, very similar. 32.5 millimeters in the rear here on the Saucony, 8 millimeter drop. 31 millimeters of stack in the rear on the Brooks with a 10 millimeter drop. I personally prefer lower drop shoes, so I give the nod to the Saucony, but they're really close, and honestly on foot, they feel very similar. Overall conclusion on these shoes, obviously these are very similar shoes. They've got a lot of the same features. You know, the Saucony is a little more plush, it's got a little more response, but it does come with a little bit of that weight penalty. Whereas the Brooks is slightly more breathable, a little bit lighter weight, but it's not as sweet underfoot as the Saucony. This is a really hard call for me, but personally, I think I would go with the Brooks, mainly because it's a little more breathable, it's a little lighter weight, and it didn't have those heel slip issues that I tended to have in the Triumph 18. I will say this though, if you're considering either of these shoes, there is the Hoka Clifton 7, which is 2 ounces lighter, lower to the ground, lower drop, much more breathable, a little sweeter underfoot, and a little bit cheaper on the pocketbook. The only thing you have to contend with is you gotta like elf shoes, but it's the Christmas season, so maybe this one might be a hit. All I wanna say is if you're considering these two, check out the Clifton 7 as well. I think all three of these are gonna fit your needs if you're looking for a very comfortable, very soft landing, recovery day shoe, cruiser shoe, something soft underfoot. These really are great options. Okay, everybody, please go to RunRepeat.com. Check out the facts and stats on both these shoes. There's a lot I didn't cover in this head-to-head. Thank you for watching. Please let me know in the comments below if you like this type of head-to-head comparison. I'd love to do a couple more of these in the future. All right, go do, be, run, repeat.